Meet Darrin Totty. A tradesman at heart, from taxidermy to knife making. Is there really anything Darrin can't do? The answer is no. From melting, shaping, forging, and tempering, heck, Darrin even makes his own handles and sheaths. His business, Whitetail Forge, you can find in the description down below. But without further ado, we're going to talk all about his process on this episode of Convos with Aaron.
Yeah, what would you say is your favorite part about creating a knife?
Mental design of it, and the forging. Like I said, I'll draw a picture on the table and that's what I want. Use a lot of, now I've got where I draw it on paper or I can see what's in my head. And I've got to be in bed at night and be thinking about something and get up and draw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then go back to bed and then get up the next morning and look at it. Yeah, that ain't what I want. And sometimes I'll get started on forging one that's in my head and something happens with it and I go, I like it better.
You like that better? Yeah. That's part of the process.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes the metal wants to go a certain way and I just let it go and it turns out to be better than what I originally wanted, so. But basically, people just want a basic knife to hunting, fishing, whatever, camp knives and stuff. So.
And is there different types of those kind of knives? I can imagine there is.
Yeah. I mean, I got people that want a 6 or 8 inch blade that like a big knife, and other people like me, I want like 3 or 4 inch blade, and you can skin a deer, or elk, or whatever you want to do with it. But some people like them big, some like them small. So some like horns, some like wood, some like bone. That's what they tell me. How much you charge for a knife? That's what kind of knife you want.
Yeah, because all those different elements.
There's too many variables. I can make you a $100 knife with a set of $500 mammoth ivory handles on it. What do you want? Yeah, or Usyk or whatever, But yeah, it's relative to what you want. So,
Well, that makes sense. And like I said, that carries over to a lot of different disciplines too. There's so many minute details that can change the outcome of a knife. And you were talking about too, sketching it down in design. What a lot of people say to do is sketch out your logo or sketch out what you're going to design first, and then, like you said, see if it fits in there. See if it's to what you wanted, or if it's something entirely, like you were talking about, how sometimes in your brain you're like, I like that better. I'll do it like that way. And so those moments especially are lively, I feel like, and super just.
It's in your head, and a lot of it is because a lot of it you have to pre-plan as far as forging it with a hammer. Okay. I've got to do this before I do that.
That makes sense.
And what the blade style looks like, and for every action there's opposite reaction. So if I'm showing somebody, and I have a lot of people, especially younger people, come by and they want to buy a knife. It'd be cheaper, you just come make you a knife, I'll help you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know. So you teach too, you said?
Yeah, no, just especially like young kids, teenagers and stuff, and not a paying thing yet. When I get my journeyman stamp, which whenever I get time to, that's a whole nother process. It's a level under mastersmith you got to go through. You got to make one knife, 10-inch blade, 2 inches wide, fitting 15 overall with a handle, test knife. Then you take that knife to a mastersmith and you cut a rope, a free hanging 3/4 1 inch hemp rope with one swipe. Then you cut a 2x4 and 2 twice, and it's still got to be shaven sharp.
Interesting.
Then you chuck it up in a vise 1/3 of the length of the blade, and you bend it 90 degrees.
Is it supposed to bend, or is it supposed to?
You want to bend it and not break or crack. It can crack up to 1/3 of the width of the blade. And he witnesses that, and then you got paperwork, and he signs off on that. That's the easiest part of it. Then you go to Atlanta, the blade show, and you take 5 presentation knives. That's got to be, they say now, close to museum grade. And you take them in, you put them in a room on the table, which these other people in there are displaying theirs too. Then you leave, and there's like 7 to 9 mastersmiths come through, and they critique your blades and tell you what's wrong with them. They put like sticky notes or whatever on it, and then at the end of the day, they let you know whether you passed or not.
Interesting.
So, and that's all high carbon blade. And then you do the same thing for mastersmith 3 years later if you go for it, but it's got to be all Damascus, and I don't know what all you got. You got to make so many with so many layers, and I think maybe one of them's got to be a mosaic, and one of them's got to be a quillion dagger. If it's got gold wire rope twist in the handles, and it's a process. So,
Wow. And do you have to have that in order to teach legally, or is that?
no, I could teach here, but that's just like for my resume.
Okay.
I can tell people, hey, I've been judged by people better than me that I know how to make a knife, and it's like my friend. He's a journeyman smith. His knives he makes, he can make you one of his knives, or he can make you one with his name that's got JS on it. That one's gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
There's not gonna be nothing wrong with it. It ain't gonna be which when they judge it, they'll look at them and tell you, which they showed him, say, hey, you need to do this. You're about 1,000th off on whatever it was.
So they can tell by the eye.
Whether your plunge line was 1,000th off, or you need to straighten that up a little bit. And I don't know if he questioned them or whatever. And they said, we can get a mic. We can show you if you don't believe us. And they thought, oh, I believe you. So, yeah, they've been doing it a long time, and they know what they're doing. So, and that's a good thing about bladesmithing. I used to do taxidermy, mountain deers. Well, that's all I mounted was deer. It started out just as a hobby, and I got doing that. That's what I was saying about the first knife I made versus the knife. I can show you the first deer I mounted versus the last one. You could tell. But the people in that community of taxidermy, you could not go to another guy's shop and say, hey, can you tell me how you do this like that? No.
Is it all based on them?
Yeah, they're not going to give you no trade secrets.
Oh, okay, interesting.
They ain't going to help you out. You're taking money from them. But I've not yet met a bladesmith that won't tell you everything he knows and he loves sitting down to tell you.
What do you think the difference, like why is it that way? It just is, wow.
And that's a kind of a written rule with bladesmithing. The way I've been taught and brought up was, hey, you just pay anybody that wants to know. It's your obligation to pass it on. So I'm telling you this, you pass it on to somebody else when they want to know. Because at the end of the day, and we used to do more shows, and I have aspiring young 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. That's what we want to do. We're going to, we'll pay you. Now, you ain't got to pay me nothing. If you want to do it, you come over here, and I'll help you. Yeah. Now, I don't know everything, and if you talk to somebody else, and this is one of the key things I learned a long time ago, is I got most all my friends, and most of them out west, they are all knife makers. And we get together, and they do things different than I do. You have to, especially learning, till you get your process, the way you do it, is take a little bit from each one of them and try it. Hey, that worked for me, but I tried this didn't work. So they do it their way, you do it your way. You get your own process. So, and not saying theirs is wrong. My buddy, one of them, you got different hammers you use. I forge with a rounding hammer, and he forges with a cross peen hammer.
Okay.
I can't forge a blade with a cross peen hammer, and he can't forge one with a rounding hammer as good as he can. I mean, we both can, but you know, that's just not what you use, and this is what I'm used to. So that's what he prefers, just like I prefer a rounding hammer. And we'll get a kick out of it. We'll tease each other about it and stuff. But anyways, yeah, you just have to, and I tell them, you just have to take little bits and pieces from what fits you to get to the end process of what you're looking for. So I'll tell anybody anything, because 90% of you that I have here, and I tell you all this stuff too, ain't never gonna do it anyway. And if you do, I'm proud of you, because when you turn out something better than me, I showed you. So that's the way it should be done. So
it's interesting.
And it turns out 90% of them, they're not really into it. It looks, you know, the Forged in Fire, or this TV show, and I had a bunch of friends that was on it, and they're like, hey, we can get you on there. And no, I don't care nothing about being up. It takes so long. It's like, it's a process. But
Would you say you don't want to be on there because it's just a hobby or something that you find that you don't want to?
There was a time in the fall there in Pigeon Forge, they'll have a Forged in Fire grudge match where Iron Mountain Metals there at Pigeon Forge, Robbie Bowman hosted, and he'll have all the past ones that want to come to it, and they'll get up on stage competing and stuff. Well, I'd go up there with Paul, and we'd sit around, you know, I'd kind of watch his booth while he was up there forging and stuff. And that's what they was doing was podcast, you know, interviewing them over and stuff. Yeah. And I watched one of a guy, and they asked him would he go back on the show again. And he's like, no. They said, well, did you not like it? He said, oh, I loved it. He said, I won. They said, well, that's good. He said, the bad part about it was I won. That's why I ain't going back, because if I'd have went on there and something would have happened to my blade, he said, I'm a bladesmith for a living. You would more or less remember my knives from failing than not me winning. So, and I thought, you know, he's exactly right. So
That's an added pressure that I didn't even realize, because I've seen that show before. It's very popular, even with people who don't. Right. The process is so, like you said, 90% of the people, they're like, oh, it's cool to see all the works. But I can imagine that could really affect your image online.
Yeah, it could kill you.
Yeah.
But that's kind of one of that made sense to me, and that was always stayed in my head. So no, I ain't gonna. And at that time, I really didn't care to do it, and it just ain't my kind of thing I'd want to do. But anyway, we have fun up there, and I even get to get up on stage and make a knife, and sometimes they ain't got enough, you know, to fill in, and they got bleachers, people there watching and stuff. It's fun to get up there. Just me and him will get up there and play. Usually me and him will go against each other, and we'll have fun with it. And they got an MC, and he's talking to you, and they get to talking. I'll take his hammer and hide it or throw it on the ground. There's tongs or I take my knife out of his forge and take his and put in mine, and I'll work on his knife, and he does the same thing too. So it kind of gets the crowd into it, but we have fun.
So I want to get into talking about Whitetail Forge. How did that come about?
Like I said, I did taxidermy work.
Yeah.
And I was still doing it when I started making knives. And they bring something to you that they want you to create for them, which is the deer they kill. Preserve it to where, you know, it looks like it's good, or where it did from its original form. And then they wear your death and wear your death and wear your death. And then you get done with it. Hey, your deer's ready. Okay, I'll be down there one day to get it. Then you sit there and sitting on it, waiting on them. So, and then I got to where I was doing more and more knives, but the name comes. A guy at work for me, he's like, well, what's your name of your knife business? I ain't got no name for it. He said, you ought to call it Whitetail Forge. You mount deer and stuff, and you're just making knives, Whitetail Forge. It just kind of stuck and went from there. But it was, at first it was Whitetail Forge custom knives. And I was at a show, and usually the knives I make then, it was just something that was in my head. I make it, you know, I ain't taking orders. I go sell, you like it, you don't like it. And a guy come up to my booth and said, can you make me this? I said, well, sir, I make what I make, and that's what I said. Well, why does your name say custom? You're not custom making. So I had to change the name just, I said, well, you're right. So I got called on that. So now it's Whitetail Forge handcrafted knives. So handcrafted goes to, which there's different knife makers. There's people that stock removal, they'll buy them a piece of blade steel. They'll draw a picture of it on the earth. They'll take it and cut it out, and they'll grind it. Or then you got people that's hand forging blades, and that's the difference. And if I do a grind out knife, which I don't do many, not unless it's specific to a certain shape that I don't think I can, or it'd take me too long to do forging it, I'll grind it out. But when I grind one out and I put my name on it, I don't put my name on it. I put I put the shop logo on it. That way it comes back, I know it's a ground out knife, not a forged knife. So
that's nice. And also wanted to ask you too, and I was thinking about this right before the interview, what do you think of these knives that you could buy on Amazon that are like Chinese, super cheap? What would you say to somebody who's like debating if they should get a cheaper knife or whatever?
I'm glad you asked that question. I wish I'd had time. I'd have got something together for you. I had a guy ask me, I don't know, it's been 4 or 5 months ago. He said, how much is your Damascus knives cost? According to how big it is, how long it is, handle material. I said, they start out about $350 starting out. Why are they so high? I said, it just takes a while to make them. He said, I can get one off Amazon for $30, $40. I can get you one off Amazon. And that weighed on my mind for weeks. So I got on Amazon and bought one. And we made a video of it out here. I took one of my Damascus blades. I didn't have one, and it wasn't really designed for what I was going to do with it, but it was the only one I had. So I was basically going, I'll wreck it, is what I'm going to tear it up. It's still a piece of metal. But I took that blade and chucked it up in the vise, and I took my knife and cut down in the Amazon blade all the way down and mine had a little deflection on it, but it was a Skinner and I had it almost to zero, so it didn't have much, it's a piece of metal. But all I gotta do is resharpen it and it can still go, and yeah. So I take it now to shows, like a Wild Turkey Federation is, and he might have sold a knife or two, and I put it up there and he goes, what's up with that there? And then I tell that story, so.
That's a good piece to have. Yeah, that's cool.
That's what I tell everybody, all my knives are 100% warranty on them. Anything, as long as you don't use it for a hammer or pry bar, I'll fix it. If I can't fix it, I'll make you another one, because at the end of the day, it's still a piece of metal. Weather conditions control it, temperature of oil, temperature of the forge. So, yeah, which, knock on wood, I think I've had one failure come back, and the young boy broke a tip off of it, and that was just the other week, and it took about 30 seconds to fix it back. And he was probably using it in a way he probably wasn't prying something, but he mailed it back. I fixed it, and we mailed it yesterday and got it back to him. So
That's cool.
I'll stand behind it. So, and I tell people, they say, well, I'll put this up and never use it. I say, no, use it. That's what it's for. Yeah. I don't care. Take it home and beat the far out of it, because, I mean, every now and again, I'll get a new load of steel in and I'll make a knife and just chuck it, wood up, and I'll take and beat it through 2x4s and stuff. And so I usually tape it and put it on something. But, yeah, it's still shaving sharp when you get done with it. So that's what I tell people. Hey, you ain't scaring me, go at it with it. I don't care. So.
Well, it's cool that you're able to provide that service of replacing it or fixing it.
Yeah. But that's the only guarantee I can give you. You know, like I said, it's still a piece of metal, and anything, it can have micro fractures in it, stuff like that. So, but that's like I say about making a knife. If you've never had one crack, you ain't never made many. So, and every now and again you'll have one when you go to quench it, and it'll go ting. You know, you're sitting there on.
So that feeling, how does that feel? Is it just?
Oh, I had some good looking Damascus I was making for some Christmas orders. Like I said, the temperature got a lot to do with it too, and the oil, I use a mineral oil. And I thought I ain't changed that oil in a while. So, and I had a bucket of new oil. Well, it was old oil, but it'd been sitting over there for a while. So I wasn't having no problems with my blades till I changed the oil. And I cracked about every one of them blades, and 3 of them or 4 of them was Damascus. You'd have thought that I'd have keyed in on the changing the oil, and all you can do is just throw them aside. They ain't nothing, it's done.
So you can't reuse it, you can't melt it or anything?
Oh yeah, I could put it in a can and reforge weld it all together, and that's why I keep them. I might do that one day, but yeah, I mean, as far as I could weld it up, but then you'll see the welds in it, it ain't.
Ruins the piece of it?
Yeah, the design of it and stuff, so I ain't gonna. If it leaves here, it's right. If I don't like it, it don't leave, and I've had them before too, and I ain't gonna, I can't do it. But, you know, money's not everything. Your name and reputation means more than money does, so.
It's brilliant.
I have a lot of people over here, they find one laying there, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? Yeah, it's got this or it's got that stuff. And ain't nothing wrong with it. Ain't nobody gonna see that. And so still my name's on it. I ain't letting it get out of here till. And some of them you can save and some of them you can't, so.
Yeah.
Even so, there's a lot of integrity attached to that.
Right.
That's
cool.
I'm proud of it when it leaves, and especially, and some of them mean more to me than others, because I'm working on one for a lady at work now. Her son's a sergeant major in the Army in Germany, and he just made sergeant major, so she wants to commemorate that with a knife. So those heads are going, I'm thinking what I can do in the handle and what kind of wood and what I'm gonna do, and so them mean more than just somebody want a hunting knife. Yeah, I'll make you a hunting knife, and yeah, it's pretty, I like it, it'll work for you. But the other ones are just, you know, or somebody's retirement or something, and it just, you feel good about it, and that's what I tell people. I said, long after I'm dead and gone, my knives will still be out and about. So, and they can be passed down from generation to generation on. So my name will outlive, or my family's name will outlive all of us. So.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful too to think about, because that puts more weight around and behind your work and what you do. Yeah.
So that's how much I care about it, and want it to be right. So.
Now, leading to you, this is not your full-time job.
No.
You work at C-State.
Yes.
What do you do at C-State?
Maintenance.
Maintenance, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do you ever see this becoming something that you want to do full-time or in retirement, or where do you see that?
Well, I would like to, but with insurance and stuff like that, you know, that's why I gotta work there, and I don't want my joy and passion of doing it turn it into a job. You know what I'm saying? It might be different if I had to do it for a living versus, if I come home and I make other, sometimes I get tired of making a knife. I'll make forks, steak turners, spatulas, crosses, different things, necklaces, and I've made hummingbirds and just different blacksmithing stuff. And
Now,
Have you ever, you talk about a specific knife burnout, but more so creative burnout. Do you feel that? How often do you ever feel that, or is there?
now sometimes you will get, you'll make a certain design of a knife and everybody likes it.
yeah.
And it'll sell, but you still got pictures of it, and I try and keep a good photo album of pictures and stuff, and what you got on the phone. Now, you can't go nowhere without a phone, but they'll go, I like that one right there, you know, and then the next person says, I like that one right there, and you get to making the same knife over and over, and sometimes when I get like that, I'll stop, do something different. I might have another knife in my head that I want to do, so then I'll do that, and a lot of times I run out of things to do, and then I get to thinking, well, I'm gonna do something I ain't never done. So I kind of get to watching things and how they did it and stuff, and then try and put it all together, and it's just something different, you know. If you ain't learning, if you ain't failing, you ain't learning. So,
what would you say is your most adventurous creation that you've made?
oh me, hardest for me or adventurous?
I guess both. I don't know. Whatever fits the mold. I guess.
Oh, yeah. I did a keyhole knife.
Interesting. Okay.
It's all one piece, the blade and the bolster. And then you've got a hole through the bolster, and then you press the wood. It's all got to fit perfect. So, yeah, I did one. And that was the lady, I don't know if it's last Christmas, she said, I want one like that. And I said, no, ma'am, you don't want one like that. Why not? I said, you would want me to charge you what? She wanted Damascus too. I said, you wouldn't want me to, no, you don't want one. I'll make you one, but it ain't worth me figuring out because you ain't gonna pay that for it, so.
Yeah.
But, and that's they say, you know, price of knife is relative to, you know, it's some things for some people is expensive, and to other people that ain't expensive. So, you know, it's hard to put an expense on
a craft, I can imagine.
Right. And a lot of people don't know. The ones that know how long it takes, if that's what they want, they shell it out. The Wild Turkey Federation, as a guy walked up, I want that knife right there. And I said, oh, okay. And he's like, well, one of his buddies, well, you can get it a little, he'll probably cut you a little bit on that if you, he's like, no. He said, I know what it took, put into it to make this knife, and I'm paying for the whole thing for it. So, yeah.
How does preparation look like for one of those events?
I was on a waiting list to get in there.
Okay.
So I wasn't a definite in. So back in the fall, they emailed me and said, hey, we got a booth opening if you want it, and I jumped on it, which I'd been making I usually will stop taking Christmas orders 1st of November. Now, last year I moved it back to October because I get so many of the board full of orders. That way I know I've got time to get them out before Christmas time, so. And then after I quit taking orders, if everything's going good and the knives are flowing and going out, and you know, if somebody asks you, I'll try to. I ain't making you no promises, but you know, I got this much time, I can probably make one. But anyways, so I'm getting ready for the show, and I'm working on Christmas stuff, and I'm thinking I'm getting ahead with the show knives and making other stuff, steak turners, and had a good Christmas. At the end of Christmas, I had 3 knives left. So January to mid-February, it was on down here. That's what I said about cleaning the shop. It was so dirty, stuff scattered everywhere, but I had to get stuff too for the show. So, but if I just took 3 knives, I was gonna have to go that way. Once you're in, you're in. So I'm already in for next year. So that reserves my booth. So.
And then that kind of answered my next question, what was going to be, do you usually prepare just a bunch to have on standby, or do you do special orders? Because that one guy ordered that knife, right?
Oh yeah, he's going to. But yeah, I've got more confident now in what somebody wants, and if they will show me what they want or will tell me what they're using it for. Because sometimes your vision of what you want, and you're telling me, and what I got in my head of what you want is 2 different things, you know. So, when I make a knife, I tell people, you want a particular knife, okay? I'll make that knife for you. When you come pick it up, look at it, and you don't like it, that ain't what you want, it don't bother me a bit. I'll make you another. Because there's gonna be somebody else will walk by and go, whew, I like it right there, that's what I'm looking for. So, and that's what I tell them, like, if that ain't what you want, just tell me, I'll make you different.
Yeah, and then you can just reuse it.
You know, somebody else will like it, so I just put it back in the inventory in the drawer, and somebody will, sooner or later, it'll go.
That's smart.
If I ain't confident in what I'm doing, I can't sell you something that I ain't confident in, so it's not cocky, it's just, you know, confident. But
I guess just being prepared as a business owner and craftsman, I'd say.
Right now, I've got just orders, so it's keeping me plenty busy, which I got a bunch for that show that I didn't sell, so and sometimes people just stop by and say, hey, what do you got? Here they are. Go through them, look, see if you like anything, and then we talk about it and make a deal or not make a deal, or I'll make you one or whatever, you know, so.
And what is the customer base? I can imagine it's mostly hunting knives, right? Is that the...
You'd be surprised. Yeah, most of it's hunting knives. I ain't gonna say older, but the ladies like kitchen knives. So I'll sell a bunch of kitchen knives, little paring knives and butcher knives, and they like it. So you gotta have, that's the whole thing about it. My brother went to the show with me and a friend, and I told him, which me and this other guy had done it several other times. He's kind of been with me. He'll come down here and play around too, and he'll go with me to shows and set up and kind of watch a booth if I'm doing something else. I told him we're gonna play knife games here in a minute, and I had one Damascus knife that I made, and it looked like it was a yard or a field, and it had a stream running through it. It was just an accident, you know, it did come. I wasn't planning on it looking like that, and I wished I'd knew how I did it. But anyway, it sat on the table, and I told him, the first day when we sat down there, I said, pick a knife. My brother's like, what are you talking about? I said, pick a knife, everybody's gonna pick up. And we picked 2, but anyway, there's always one knife sitting on the table. If it stays there long enough, that everybody comes to that table, we'll pick up and look at. Then the ice price and whatever and what it is, and put it back down. And then we'll get to moving it. I'll take it from up here and put it over here. And tell them, say, watch, they'll still pick it up back here. When the people come to the table, they'll reach over and get that one particular one until. So, and that, stuff like that, we'd make notes, whatever the handle material was, colors, you know, that's. A teal, if it's a kitchen knife with a teal handle on it, a lady will buy it.
It's just that color that's...
Just that color.
Wow. I didn't even think about that, but that makes a lot of sense though. And you make certain knives, obviously, to my last question, talking about who's your customer base or who buys what. Right. That makes sense because you do that in order to see who likes what. Right. And yeah, okay, I didn't even think about that, but that's really cool.
And that's, you know, some of them's the finish on the knife and the sheath style. The one Damascus knife I sold every Damascus knife I had except one. And the only reason I didn't sell it was because I made it with a lady in mind, So a bunch of women picked it up, but men picked it up too. But they'd look at the knife and they'd look at the sheath. And I told them, when we get back home, I'll put a black sheath with it, and it'll be gone too. So.
That's funny. That's funny how people are tied to certain colors.
Oh, it is. Yeah, they say, you know, color dictates your mood too. As there's a lot of people go to manufacturing plants and go around and look at the colors of the wall, and they say like yellow is more productive than brown or gray, you know. So yellow puts you in a better mood, but yeah, you'll learn that what sells and what don't sell, and like I said, we take notes and don't do this and don't bring that, and bring more of this, don't bring that. So,
well, it's funny too that you turn it into a game, because I think that's fun.
And then when somebody walks up the table, everybody's looking at each other, and we get to laughing when they reach over and get it. So, and then when it finally, that was the guy that bought it, was, as you know, his buddies trying to get him a cut on it and stuff, and he's like, no, I know what went into it to make it. And then the ones that want it, when they walk up, they're gonna take it with them. And I had several people come back the next day and walk up there and go, it ain't there. You got to get it when it's there, or it's gone. You know,
limited product. Yeah,
there's only one like it, and that's another thing I tell people. I can't force two just alike. Every one I make I make you one, and somebody else one that you like that design. Yours is still different than his, so you got one of a kind when you got it. So,
well, that makes it so much more special. Yeah. And tying it back to these knives you can buy on Amazon too, they're all going to be the same because they're all
they're manufactured, and it's the cheapest way they can manufacture it with the cheapest kind of whatever. Yeah. They're out to make money.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's tied to craftsmanship.
No, it's just mass production. Is all it is. So, and that's, like I said, that's why a handmade knife costs more, and that's why the maker stands more behind it than Amazon. Well, I guess they probably refund you if it breaks, but you know, $30 is $30. Most people ain't gonna send it back. It ain't worth the aggravation. So, but I don't worry about, and I've always been this way. I don't try and worry about there's other knife makers around, and y'all do, and there's some, and they do stock removal, and that's fine. It don't bother me. Y'all do you, I'm gonna do me, and however you do it's the way you do it. One's preference is another one's. You can't do this and you can't do that. No, you do you, and you. End of the day, you know, I ain't trying to steal your business, and you ain't stealing mine. So, you got loyal customers. So.
Well, I remember too at the beginning you were talking about individuality and how each person, even when teaching, does something completely different. Oh yeah. And so that probably carries over to the quality and the overall presentation of the knife too.
They won't go that extra step to make it look as good as they could have, you know. They're just wanting to make a sale and get rid of it. And to me, it ain't about the money. It's more about the usage and people being proud of it and stuff. So,
well, I think that carries over into what you were talking about with when somebody breaks a knife and brings it to you and you'll replace it or fix it. That's very cool, and that sentiment runs through everything. And I appreciate your craftsmanship and quality already based on your motivation behind it. And I think that's the real beauty in people and creating things is why, like, what's the story behind why you're doing this? And so that's really cool. So.
And so that goes for all different kind of fields of artistry. You know, if it's somebody molding clay or jewelry making, or, you know, it's a craft just like that's their passion. This is my passion, and, you know.
Is there anything that you see up on the horizon that you'd be interested in, similar to a craft thing? Maybe not necessarily smithing or taxidermy, but is there anything you're kind of dabbling in right now?
Bracelets,
Bracelets, okay.
copper bracelets,
Oh, copper bracelets.
braiding them, or stainless bracelets, braiding it. It's just, I've seen it on TikTok I'm doing it, and I was like, I kind of like it. So after the show was over, I kept telling them I got something new to do, Well, I got some in there, I'll show you. And then, well, I don't know where. I had one laying out here, but I don't know where it went to, so. But yeah, I mean, it's not gonna take over knife making. I like it, but I don't like it that much.
So knife making has already reserved that spot in your
Yeah,
heart
it's
for you.
it's that, so.
That's cool. I'm glad you found your thing. I think a lot of people struggle to find their thing.
And every now and again, I'll make an axe or a hammer, just something different, just break the routine. It's radio playing before it's going and birds chirping, and I can't hear them out there, but, sunny day and it's warm and or cold. And use one eye, go back to, somebody comes out here, the younger ones that want to learn, I'll wait till it's either the coldest day or the hottest day. We're gonna see how bad you want to learn.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, push through the fire.
And usually they don't stay too long. So
Oh, wow.
now a younger kid, where it's most comfortable for them to come in, talk 12, 13-year-old kid. But you get the older generation, 20s into 30, some of them's cocky, and we can, who makes a bet, who I can teach to make a knife easier than anybody?
It's younger? Or younger or older, which?
Just in general.
Okay, I say probably a 20-year-old dude. Okay.
20-year-old girl.
Okay.
You know why? She pays attention and she does exactly what you're telling her to do.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
Now with the guy, he's a man. He's gonna show his power, how hard he can swing the hammer, how he can beat it, Hey buddy, everything you put into it, you gotta get back out of it. Just learn to move the metal. Which I can show you here in a little while, but it don't take much to move it with a hammer. You just let the hammer do the work. Don't let your arm do the work, but it's the art of moving metal.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
I forget what it was at work. There was something was bent, and they asked me, so you reckon you can straighten that out? Is there any way to straighten it? I said, you got enough gas on that torch, I can turn this thing into a bow tie or a knot or whatever you want to do, yeah. If you got enough heat, we can do whatever we want to do with it. But yeah, heat's an amazing thing, and it makes things move, or makes it where you can move it. And like I said, that gets all back to a process of the heat treat that after you've heated it up and you've beat it, all the molecules in that metal are all messed up. They're confused. So then you got to go through a normalization cycle, where you bring it up above magnetic, or critical is what they call it, where it won't stick to a magnet, and then you let it air cool. And I do mine at least 3 times like that and cool. That refines the grain structure in the metal. That's what makes it strong. So that's just part of the process, and I've seen where people don't. That's to me the most critical part of it for edge retention and strength.
And what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out making knives?
Just starting out, get with somebody that's reputable knife maker that's been doing it a while. And if you go the YouTube route of doing it, make sure they're a reputable person. And I say on YouTube, a master smith or journeyman smith. I mean, look at their work and what they've done before you start trying to apply what they're telling you to what you're doing. Because it's easy to go down a rabbit hole, and I've done this before, that somebody didn't know what they was doing, and everybody's making a YouTube video, and you watch it. And once you get a bad habit started, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when you're learning. Yeah, you're impressionable, and it's,
you get with somebody reputable that knows how to make a knife, and ask questions, because like I said, I've never run into a bladesmith that won't tell you whatever you want to know, because they'll, just like we're sitting here talking, that's all they want to talk about is knives and knife making. So, but there again, that goes back to, you got to a handful of people of what they do and try it and make what works for you. Take little bits and pieces of each one of them and make that work for you and make it your process. So, like I said, about everybody does it different, but has the same outcome. So, and it's just the way of it. I mean, it would take you less time to learn if you'll do that than it is to go down the rabbit hole and do it all the wrong way the first time, you know, and then try and clean that up to get it back right. So I've looked back many times going, they didn't know what they was talking about, you know, so.
Yeah.
But trial and error, live and learn, and that's the only way you succeed is from mistakes and failure. So it's a matter of getting back up and doing what you got to do and keep going. If you quit something, you ain't never going to succeed at it. So
True. You hear that all the time, but it's always important to think about when you're in the slums of your craft, I feel like, right? When you're just like, when you break a knife or when something doesn't go right and you just think to yourself, I just need to stop, but keep trying is the only way to succeed.
the first one, me and Paul we had a cold forge going, and that's when he told me what he did, and I had a piece of metal in there in the forge. We had it welded to a piece of rebar, and he told me, don't get it stuck too far in there. You got to kind of learn where the heat level is in a cold forge. It's a whole different animal. And I went in there to get it out. So where'd it go? It's gone. He said, you burn it up. That's what I do now. He said, get you another piece of metal and weld on the end of it, stick it back in there, start over again. And that happens like a blade breaking. If you ain't never had one crack, you ain't never made many. So you're gonna have failure, but you just gotta learn how to deal with failure, and you'll get better. So there ain't nothing you can't do if you want to do it bad enough. But it might take you longer than it does others, but if you stay at it, you'll still succeed. So when I get to talking about that, I lose track of time, and I'll talk all day about it.
That's the beauty of conversation. It's just, if you get in a rhythm, then you'll be able to get lost in conversation if you're actually listening, and that's something I struggle with too. Sometimes I have to force myself to.
You see their excitement of, and what you might see that in me. When we get talking about it, you can see me. I get ramped up, but just tell them about it. But
that's also why I'm trying to capture with this. I feel like is the reason why I have so many different people, because I had Lily on last week, the theater manager. I'm having you on this week. Next week I have a teacher, and then next week I have an artist. And so I would love to be able to provide a resource for people to learn from other crafts, and also maybe see if they would be interested in that, I guess, a way to explore what all there is out there in terms of creating and getting fulfilled by whatever craft, a person is into. And like you said too, you could tell. And
get cranked up and get going at it. So
for sure. Well, thank you, Darrin.
Oh yeah, I've enjoyed this. It's been fun. Like I said, my first time. It might be my last. I hope not, but
no. Like I want everybody that I have on to feel welcome to be back on. So if you would ever want to come on again, and talk about it.
I mean, I was kind of nervous and wondering what was going on and what I was going to do or say, but after you get into it, it ain't nothing. You said we'd have been going for whatever, an hour or so. Like I said, it seemed like 10, 15 minutes we've been going. So
yeah, that means it's working somewhat, right? That's what that means.
And you screwed an atmosphere too that it makes it comfortable too. So.
Oh man, that's great. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. And you're good at it. So
thank you. I appreciate.
You make me comfortable, sitting here talking. So
that's when I walk into an interview, even though I've done 2 technically right now. That's something that I've wanted to create, is that atmosphere. I never want it to feel like a interview? Because I feel like you see it a lot on TV now. You see people interviewing politicians and artists, and it's just super combative and super next question, next question, next question.
And it's kind of funny, all the questions that you've asked me was the questions that I hope you asked this. I'd like to get onto this subject, this subject, and this subject. And I believe you got onto every one of them.
Oh, that's good. I appreciate that.
Just out of the open.
Yeah.
Out of the blue air. So I think it went good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you again.
You want me to fire this up?
Yeah, we'll get to firing, and this is what we're about to do is the process that you saw at the beginning of the video. So we're gonna go and shoot that. I'm gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna get to cooking, I guess you can say.
Get to playing.
Get to playing, yeah. So thank you for joining another episode of Convos with Aaron. It's always been a pleasure. Remember to like and subscribe. Also, if you want to be a guest or you know of somebody who'd be a good guest, you can submit a request at convoswithaaron@gmail.com, and we'd love to get you on the show. So thank you again for watching. Like I said, subscribe so you can constantly get updates and different episodes that you can watch and listen to on your way from work or just while you're doing work, whatever. So we love to have you subscribe and be a part of it. So thank you, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.